Hey, welcome back, everyone. As a veteran or first responder, when you come into a situation, people know who you are and what you're there for without ever saying a word. Actions move in a specific direction, and it's generally understood what has to get done. The structure of it is logical to you, and it brings you a level of consistency. But regardless where you're at in your career, change is coming, and you know it. One day, whether it's on your terms or because it happens faster than you anticipated, you're going to take that uniform off for the last time. And when you move into that corporate office or a civilian company, the rules are going to be different. There's a high likelihood that something is going to feel off when you first get there. The titles and assignments will say one thing, but the environment, it's going to say another. The corporate world runs on a different operating system. It's not a matter of if it's better or if it's worse. It's just going to be different than what you're used to. The biggest hurdle waiting for you won't be a lack of technical skills. It's your own ego. Now, this isn't about you pretending to be somebody you're not. It's not about abandoning your standards or your confidence. It's about understanding the architecture of influence. Learning that it's more common to ask than to tell. Learning how to move ideas and projects through collaboration instead of brute force. And learning how to interact with your new peers without starting every conversation with who you used to be. Because if you don't learn this, your new civilian workers won't see a peer. They'll see someone who's living in the past and who thinks they're better than everyone else. Corporate diplomacy isn't about playing weak or sucking up to people. It's simply a new strategy. It's about having the tactical discipline to detach from your past so you can accurately assess and adapt to your new environment. Because detaching from your current identity is your ally on the civilian side. If you want to win that next mission, you have to check your ego at the door before the civilian world forces you to do it according to their terms. Right now, though, we're going to take a minute and acknowledge a sponsor of the podcast. And when we come back, we'll get further into this topic. As a first responder, control isn't optional. It's how you do your job. But when it comes to buying or refinancing a home, most lenders don't get your world. Police Mortgage does. They specialize in working with first responders, walking you through the process, breaking down your options, and helping you lock in competitive rates without the runaround. Take control of your financial future with people who have your back. Visit policemortgage.com or call 312-499-8878. Police Mortgage, for first responders who are second to none. When you walk into that civilian job for the first time, your instincts from your years as a veteran or first responder are going to be to look for the chain of command. You're going to want to see who reports to who. You'll want to know who has the authority and who makes the final decision, because that's how you've operated up to this point. But here's the information that you need right now. That corporate org chart won't have the same structure and authority as what you're used to. In the civilian world, there's a gap between formal authority and actual power. Every office has a shadow hierarchy. It's the invisible web of influence that doesn't adhere to titles, executive offices, or who has the highest salary. Real power in the civilian world isn't always linear. There's unofficial authority, and it often heavily relies on relationships. But think about the people who are really in charge of your organization now. You know, the ones who really run things, regardless of who the officer in charge is. The corporate world is the exact same way, just without the uniforms to help you spot them. Power frequently concentrates in places you wouldn't expect. It lives with the senior executive assistant who manages the vice president's calendar and impacts who actually gets an audience or their project seen. It's the project manager or the lead engineer who actually knows and understands how the company runs and operates. These people usually have seniority in time or experience, but not title or position. But they can quietly advance you and your ideas, or they can put boundaries around your career before a senior executive even knows your name. If you don't learn to map this new terrain, you might find yourself walking into a minefield. And the psychological impact of this isn't that you don't understand it in concept, but as the newbie, it can make you feel vulnerable. Right now, you likely have seniority and authority, and your recognition is often immediate. But when that's gone, you're going to feel a significant sense of disorientation. It might feel like moving through a dark room without night vision. So the biggest mistake you can make while preparing for this shift is assuming that the corporate world is pure meritocracy, where your good work will just speak for itself. You might think that focusing purely on the work means that you don't have to play politics. But identifying that shadow hierarchy will be an important basic tactical proficiency. If you refuse to learn who holds the actual influence, you'll end up stepping on the wrong toes, alienating the wrong people, and wondering why your projects keep getting quietly stalled or buried. This brings us actually to the core weapon of corporate diplomacy. And it's something you have to practice right now while you're still in uniform. It's tactical humility. You need to be about maintaining a student mindset. When you're starting over again or when you're entering a new arena, your job is to be the figurative quiet mouse in the corner, not a roaring lion. You have to be willing to stand at the back of the room and learn. Granted, as an experienced veteran or first responder, that concept can feel incredibly uncomfortable. It can feel like you're stripping away your own strength. But in reality, humility is a force multiplier. In the civilian world, you have to realize there's a whole lot more asking to do something than telling. You'll no longer have the mechanism to force compliance. You can't just bark an order and expect people to jump. Well, you can. And they might jump once or twice. But then you'll more than likely be shown the door before the third time. Whereas relationships that use collaborative persuasion and lateral influence see a much higher execution rate than those who rely strictly on authority and command. You need to learn to ask questions as opposed to giving answers or direction. So instead of walking into a new civilian role and trying to prove how in control you are, your default setting needs to be collaboration. Asking questions like, hey, can you help me understand how this process works? Or who should I talk with to make sure that this project flows smoothly? By doing that, you're weaponizing humility. You're disarming your coworkers who might be intimidated by your background, or maybe they're expecting some rigid, aggressive archetype to come stomping into their department. You'll immediately build social capital because you're showing respect to their experience and their operational knowledge. And another aspect to avoid is the, I used to be sentence starters. The temptation to brag about your past is actually driven by fear. It's a defense mechanism when you feel disconnected or insignificant. It's because you haven't learned the corporate world or the office dynamics yet. So your ego wants to scream your resume at people so they know you used to do important stuff. But you have to recognize that feeling for what it is. Vulnerability. Real professionals don't need to demand respect by looking down on others or living in the past. You'll build actual influence by keeping your mouth shut, figuring out who moves the levers of power, and showing up to serve the new mission. Your past achievements are incredibly valuable on this side of the fence. But out there, they won't carry the same weight. Yes, they got you to the doorway, but they won't win the day. Only your ability to adapt and connect will do that. On the other hand, if you want more on this topic, along with more information on transition planning and preparation, I highly recommend my weekly newsletter. Check out the link in the show notes to sign up. I know you'll get some benefit from it. Here's your hard pivot. The cost of failing to adapt your mindset in the civilian world isn't just a bad performance review. It can be a breakdown of your professional identity. As a veteran or a first responder, you've spent years learning how to read the terrain as well as people. You've learned who really has influence. You've learned that rank matters, but relationships matter also. You've learned who to talk to before making a decision or taking action. You know that there's always the official chain of command, and then there's the chain that actually gets things done. But if you don't master your own pride and ego now, the civilian world is likely going to break you soon after you enter their battle space. Say you get that corporate job. You drop into your new cubicle or office with your unchecked command posture. You see a system that looks messy, inefficient, and in your opinion, ineffective, at least compared to what you're used to. Yet instead of adapting, you might get frustrated. You'll start pushing and trying to drive your opinions and ideas through sheer force of will. Then reality hits. The person with the title isn't always the person with the power. The person running the meeting isn't always the person deciding the outcome. Or the person who gets things done might not be in your command structure. And what happens next is a silent, creeping failure, because you ignored or tried to circumvent the shadow hierarchy. Remember, there will be those with invisible power, and they can go to work against you. And what can compound this is that the civilian world doesn't punish you with direct confrontation the way you're used to. It often punishes you quietly. They likely won't challenge you in a meeting. They'll just withhold their cooperation. You might not get invited to the unofficial meetings where decisions are actually hammered out. Your projects might begin to stall out, and suddenly you're missing your key metrics. Then, say, 6 months later, you're sitting there wondering why your ability isn't translating into results. And once you begin struggling, your ego, more than likely, won't let you admit that you misread the situation. You'll probably come to the incorrect decision that the corporate world is a joke and that nobody understands what real ability looks like. And then if you allow yourself to buy into that lie, you'll start to pull back. You'll likely isolate yourself. You'll tell yourself that you're just going to punch the clock, collect your paycheck, and then go home. Because these civilians, they just don't get it. However, your ability will not be the problem. But your approach to things? Now that's another story. It's not that you'll need to pretend you know less than you do. You'll just need to have functional humility, not fake humility, not apologizing for your experience. Functional humility means walking into a situation and assuming that there's something important you don't understand yet. It means asking before telling and observing before correcting. You're going to have to become a beginner again. You'll have to start at zero. You'll have to earn trust from people. You'll have to learn from and probably report to people who are younger than you. You'll have to listen to ideas that sound inefficient before truly understanding why they exist. However, none of that's being weak. It's simply operational discipline in a new environment. When you transition, you aren't just changing your job description. You're changing your entire ecosystem. And if you try to operate in a corporate structure using a rigid linear command framework, you will, with a high degree of certainty, probably fail. The next mission requires a totally different kind of discipline. It requires the internal strength to realize that your past is just that. It's in your past. Your status is to reset to 0. And your old identity cannot fight this new battle for you. You have to be willing to be a beginner again. You have to be willing to sit at the bottom of a new ladder and look up with respect at civilians who have done their time, maybe even the same amount of time you spent serving, while they mastered a game you're just learning to play. That doesn't mean you throw away your grit, your work ethic, or the integrity that makes you great in uniform. Those are your core assets. It means you apply those assets to a new objective, learning the art of corporate diplomacy. Let's take another quick break to acknowledge a sponsor of the podcast. And when we come back, we'll close out this episode. When you look forward to that first cup of coffee, as soon as that morning alarm goes off, then Blue Line Roasting is the choice for you. They're a Tennessee-based law enforcement-owned company. They're roasting small batches of premium coffee, fresh, within 48 hours of your ordering, and ship fast so it doesn't sit around getting stale. From Patriot, their light roast, to Failure Drill, their dark roast. They've got something that fits whatever you prefer. Whole bean or ground, it's your call. But Blue Line Roasting is more than just good coffee. A portion of every purchase goes to support law enforcement families who are dealing with line of duty injury or loss. So your morning routine becomes something bigger. Great coffee and real impact. Grab a single bag, try a sampler, or set up a subscription so you're never caught without it. Shipping is always free. And for the listeners of this podcast, use the promo code TRANSITION10 to get 10% off your order. Head on over to BlueLineRoasting.com and make your morning count. If you can't influence people through respect and collaborative communication while you're still in uniform, you won't stand a chance when you're out in the civilian world, completely on your own. Don't wait for your transition to start training this muscle. Shift the way you operate right now, while you still have the safety net of the uniform. Start looking at your current environment, but look at it through a different lens. The next time a junior member of your team or a civilian staff member brings you a problem, pay attention to your initial internal reaction. If your default is to shut them down or give a sharp direction, catch yourself and then force yourself to pause, detach, and instead ask a follow-up question. Try to guide them to the solution by asking, what do you think is the best play here? Or, how can we adjust this to make it work better for your team? Treat your current workplace like it's range time, and you're training for lateral influence. See if you can get people to execute the objective based on the trust and respect you build with them, rather than the authority of the rank or assignment. If you can master the ability of collaborative diplomacy right now, you'll have a massive advantage when you finally cross over into the civilian world. When your service ends, nobody is going to hand you an operational manual of your new company's social dynamics. You're going to have to build that knowledge yourself through silent observation, deep listening, and humility. Your transition is coming, and it will demand a new set of operational skills. Stop trying to protect the identity you have now and start focusing on who you need to become to win the next objective. Master your ego today, or it will most certainly destroy your tomorrow. I appreciate you staying until the end. Staying all the way through definitely helps the engagement ratings. As I always say, send me your comments. Be honest with me. Tell me what you like, or tell me what I'm doing wrong. I can't make any changes unless you tell me what you need. Also, please share the podcast with anyone who you think would benefit from and enjoy it. And if you're not already, please follow the podcast wherever you're getting this episode. Stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.